Well, the film begins by showing a planet called Yauja Prime. It turns out that the planet is inhabited by a predator clan called Yauja. After that, a predator named Dek fights against his brother Kui as a trial. Despite trying his best, Dek fails to defeat Kui. For Kui, Dek lost because he fought while being controlled by his anger. Time went on until Dek and Kui talked inside the spaceship. It turned out that Dek lost one of his fangs trying to save Kui. Shortly after, Dek prepared to undertake the Yauja's traditional hunt to prove his strength and become a worthy member of the clan. And then, this tradition requires the participant to bring back their prey. Deck then sets the destination of his spaceship so that it can automatically fly to Jenna. It turns out Jenna is a planet inhabited by monsters called Kalish that cannot be killed. Deck then recklessly chose Kalish as his hunting target because he was ready to risk his life to prove himself. Moments later, Deck and Kui welcomed the arrival of their father named Jor, who had been the leader of the Yauja clan. Jor then talked about the Yauja rules where weak clan members must be executed. Unexpectedly, Dek was declared a weak member because his body was considered small for a predator. Jor also did not want to give Dek a chance to prove himself because he was sure his son would fail in carrying out the hunting tradition. Jor finally ordered Kui to execute Dek. Then, in the process, Kui betrayed and used all his abilities to save Dek. Thanks to Kui's help, Dek finally managed to escape with his ship and headed to Jaina. On the other hand, Kui ended up being executed by Jor for disobeying his father's orders. As Dek approached the planet Gina, his spacecraft gradually broke down due to atmospheric pressure. For his safety, Dek was forced to make an emergency landing without his spacecraft Naibaya Atidima. When the time was right, Dek was determined to conquer Kalish to honor Kui's sacrifice. As he began hunting Kalish, Dek was attacked by a plant-like monster. Dek then fought desperately to defeat the monster. However, in the end, Dek chose to flee because the monster was very difficult to fight. As Dek continued his hunt, he entered an area of thorny plants. Shortly after, a monster we shall call Dragon used those plants to prey on Dek. Well, at the same location, there was a woman named Tia who was trapped in the monster's lair. Tia then activated her translator feature so she could communicate in the Yauja language. From there, Tia informed Dek that the plant's thorns and undes contain poison capable of paralyzing movement. She concluded that Dragon wanted to paralyze Dek using those thorns. As Dragon attacked aggressively, Dek fled while trying to avoid the thorns. Dek then got hit by a thorn and began to have difficulty moving. Then, before losing consciousness, Dek threw his weapon to Tia. As a result, Tia was able to free herself and immediately killed Dragon. When the monster was about to devour Dek, After that, Deck's condition gradually recovered thanks to the antidote given by Tia. As they started talking, Tia admitted she was Sin, also known as the android robot owned by Wayland Yutani tasked with researching Jenna. Well, with her experience, Tia can ensure that Jenna's environment is very deadly for humans. Tia also stated that she has seen several predators hunting Kaylee's. However, none of them survived and Deck might face the same fate. In the midst of his condition of losing a leg, Tia offers a deal to Deck. So, Tia will show the location of Kalis on the condition that Deck helps Tia get her legs first. Deck then refuses because members of the Yauja clan have the principle of hunting alone. However, Deck is eventually forced to agree to the deal because his prey tracking device is damaged. After that, Deck began carrying Tia towards the destination of the robot. Deck then used a special tool to keep Tia attached to his back. They ate bobar Throughout the journey, Tia shared her extensive knowledge about the various creatures inhabiting Jenna. During the break, Tia mentioned that she had been in Jenna for 2 years. Together with her team, which also included Sin, Tia built a base for the research mission. Then, one day, a team member named Tessa invited Tia to explore the nature of Jenna so that Tia wouldn't feel bored working in the laboratory. From there, Tia and Tessa were attacked by Callies and they ended up getting separated. The same attack also caused Tia to lose one of her legs. The next day, Hadek and Tia continued their journey. They then encountered a monster that we shall call Bull. After Tia informed that Bull is Kalis's prey, Dek was determined to hunt the same monster for food. However, Dek postponed the hunt upon discovering that the area occupied by Bull was filled with sharp grass. It turns out Bull's body is resistant to the grass. Due to the actions of a small monster approaching Deck, Bull eventually ran away. Deck then used the trees around him so he could chase Bull without entering the sharp grass area. Then, in this situation, the little monster, let's call it Bat, kept bothering Deck as if Bat wanted Deck to fail in hunting Bull. While fighting against Bat, Deck was forced to divert his attention because Bull kept approaching. At the peak of this moment, Deck managed to kill Bull with a Yauja sword that has a laser element. Shortly after, Deck and Tia were attacked by another monster we shall call Nightmare. Thanks to Bat's help, the two of them managed to escape. Afterwards, Nightmare turned to hunt Bat. This situation then opened an opportunity for Deck.
So he finally succeeded. Kill the nightmare! Deck then shared the meat of his prey monster with Tia. But Tia refused. It is a robot that does not need food. On the other side, Bud receives meat giving Deck. Unique Bud spit on Deck as a sign that he now considers Deck as his family, but Deck doesn't want to be emotionally attached to Bud. Meanwhile, Tessa, Tia's teammates, managed to save themselves and is going through a process of restoring. Apparently every scene in Tia's team connected to the Yutani Wayland network. Well, thanks to that network, Tessa can detect the presence of Yauja members in Gina, which in this case is the Deck. As for the system, Tessa perceives Yauja as a threat to her mission. Once his condition has recovered, Tessa started looking for Tia. In the process, Tessa and her team managed to eradicate the monsters without any trouble, means thanks to their advanced weapons. Tessa then found the plane Deck, who fell in Gina when entering the plane. Tessa accidentally found a bomb, capable of freezing the bodies of their targets. Sometime later, Deck and Tia finally arrived at the destination location, which turned out to be a Tia team facility. Apparently, the place suffered heavy damage from the Kaylee's attack. Not long ago, Tia managed to find her severed leg. Tia then used medical facilities that can still operate to reunite the legs with his body. While we wait for the recovery process, I want to collect Tia's promise to tell the location of the proof. Deck was surprised because Tia secretly has called his team. While the team hasn't arrived yet, Tia urged Deck to leave immediately. The reason Tia already knew her team would kill, because Yoja are considered a threat to their mission. Well, it turns out that all this Wayland Yutani assigned Team Tia to catch proof, so that from now on, Deck must compete with Tia's team. Deck finally left Tia in a state of feeling betrayed because Tia broke her promise to tell the location. Waterproof. When you were still around headquarters, Deck utilizes fire-prone material to create a massive explosion. Through that action, Deck managed to lure Callus come to the location. Deck then fought it out to kill Callus. Due to the effects of their intense combat, Tia's foot recovery process become choked up. Tia then used a weapon left by his team to fight Callus. Thanks to Tia's help, Deck can perform a series of actions, until finally, he also managed to behead Callus. But Callus can recover quickly, because it has the super regeneration ability. Callus always managed to corner Deck and get ready to eat them. But Callus finally let Deck live, because he sniffed the bad smell. On the Deck body, after a few seconds, Tisa came with a bomb, the freezer he stole from the plane Deck. Thanks to that Yauja bomb, Tissa managed to catch Callus and Deck at once. As time goes by, Deck wakes up under arrest by Tessa. Apparently, Tessa was the leader of the Sin operation to catch proof. Tessa then declared, Deck from now on is property belonging to Wayland Yutani, just like those locked up elsewhere. After that, Tessa reactivate Tia, who was also taken into custody. Tessa then tell he will soon send Kalis to Welland, Utani to be the subject of research. Tessa also assessed their super regeneration ability. Kalis can be used as a breakthrough in the medical world outside the Tisa thanks to Tia. Because it had created an opening for Tessa to successfully capture Waterproof and Deck, Tessa then ran painful experiments on the Deck to investigate the body size abnormalities of those predators. Tia finally stopped the experiment to protect the Deck. Now, Tessa ordered her subordinates to prepare to lock Tia up, to then shut down because he betrayed. Then as soon as Tessa left, Tia followed the Deck's instructions to trick Sin, who are watching them. Result scene was killed by Gundeck. The actual is a children's toy Yauja. While there's a chance, Tia staged a rebellion, until he managed to help Deck run away live. Deck then jumped into the waterfall to avoid the team's pursuit. Tessa after that. Deck managed to find the plane and use medicine on site to heal his wounds. Deck then looking for weapons on the plane, because of the weapons he used previously been snatched by Tisa. Unfortunately, Deck didn't find anything, because the weapons on the plane had also been taken by Tessa. Deck finally took a mask, which seems to be a valuable item. Kui Legacy. Once his condition has recovered, Deck began to look for living things in Gina that he could use as a weapon. Deck then chose sharp grass as a short-range weapon, and picked out the acid liquid spraying creature as a long-range weapon. After that, the Deck returned to the facility. He recovered his leg. Deck then accidentally found a bat. From there, found evidence that actually Bat is the son of Callis captured by Tessa. Shortly thereafter, Dek frees Tia's legs, who are trapped. Apparently Tia's feet, now it can operate normally. Then from that, Dek utilizing Tia's feet to track Tia's location. Time goes on until Tia's feet led the Dek to Wayland Utani headquarters in Gina, which is Tia's detention center. Dek then used spray of acidic liquid to kill one unit Sin. After that, Dek managed to kill some Sin, thanks to the distraction action of Tia's legs. When it scatters, 10 baths and Tia's legs managed to kill a number of Sin, in their respective ways. After getting rid of Sin, Tia Footguard successfully freed Tia and re-merged with it. Well, actually, Dek saved Tia to repay his kindness. When I met Tia, Dek tells that Kalis' mother bad. The Dek was determined to save the room so that he can come back to life with his son. He insisted that they move fast because Kalis will soon be moved from headquarters to be sent to Utani. According to Dek's strategy, Tia fought to free the proof. In the process, Tia failed to unlock the waterproof bracket because his status as a Tessa team member has been revoked. Thanks to the help of the Bat, he managed to kill Sin, who will catch him. He then took over the Sin Eye to unlock confinement based on retinal scans. At the same time, Dek, with its combination attack, managed to kill many of the Sin that surrounded him. Shortly thereafter, Dek faces Tessa, who is operating a robot match. Apparently, Tessa was using the robot as a weapon to fight Dek. On the other side, the Dek has now switched to making Tessa a trophy, or victim, in the tradition of the Hunt Yauja. When the Dek was still fighting, Kalis finally appeared and immediately attacked Tessa for revenge. Dek and Waterproof always working together up to Robot. Tessa was heavily damaged by their combined attack. In the midst of his cornered condition, Tessa wants to kill Proof with a weapon. But before doing the action, Tessa eaten first by Kalis. When the situation is safe, the Dek gives a warm touch to the Waterproof, as a sign that it wants to make peace with the monster. Not long ago, resistant to sudden feeling of disturbance, before his body crumbled to pieces. Apparently, condition was triggered by Tessa that could still attack. When trapped in a smooth body, Tessa then prepared to kill Tia with guns, laser Yauja. But as a result of the Dek attack from behind, Tessa failed to do her act and ended up paralyzed. And then pull out Tessa's head to make her permanently die. Sometime later, Dek, with his repaired plane, returned to planet Yauja Prime. I went to see Jor, in a state seen by many members of the Yauja clan. Dek, he finally confirmed that he had finished his hunt, while handing over the head, Tessa, as a trophy. Well, as a reward for its success, Dek asked to be given a Yauja tool named Cloak, which is able to make the user's body invisible. But Jor refused to admit the success of Dek. The reason Jor considers Dek and Queen as traitors and clan. Jor then ordered 2 of his soldiers to execute. Dek managed to kill the 2 soldiers, as it becomes stronger. Since leaving Yauja Prime, Jor ended up fighting against Dek, so that he could execute his own son. At the top of the fight, Dek managed to defeat Jor, and took off the mask of his father's clan chief. From here, Jor can only acknowledge the power of Dek, and allow it to become a member of the clan. But Dek refused because he already has a clan that is willing to accept him. Shortly thereafter, Bad, who has grown up, finally appeared and devoured Jor's head. The Dek is not against bad action either, because he wanted to avenge his father's crimes. Well, apparently, Bad and Tia is now a member of the clan leader Dek. At the end of this moment, Deck takes over Cloak from Hand, Jor that he had cut. After a few seconds, the clan members prepare to attack the Deck, to punish his actions. Again, Deck also had to face his mother with a big plane. And this movie too. Finally done?